Hey, Cardinals fans. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Birds on a Blue Note. Hopefully, you've had a chance to check out that prospect video that we put together already. If you haven't, go ahead and check it out. We covered everything from the rookie ball all the way up to Memphis and AAA. Real in-depth includes player highlights if you are checking out YouTube. Audio only is available on podcast channels as well. If you just want to listen, go ahead. And we're going to be covering the Rockies four-game series at home. That was a split, and don't want to rant yet because we have a lot of game to cover with four games. So let's hop right into game one. We had Sonny on the mound, and he had a bit of a rough time with his location. Was allowing quite a bit of walks. Ended up giving up a few runs. Team was able to battle back in the sixth, get a couple back, but ultimately couldn't do anything else, which against a Rockies bullpen that's been suspect all year really shouldn't have been the case. Ultimately dropped this one 3-2. Weren't really many highlights that we had. I mean, we scored on a force out with an error and a single from Ciani. So, I mean, yeah, four total hit. I mean, eight total hits, two runs scored.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to talk about. We lost 3-2. Sonny Gray only went 4 2/3. He's our ace. He's supposed to be giving you innings too. And I know like earlier this year he's coming back from injury and they were building him back up. But I mean we're in June now, so like this shouldn't be an issue. He did give the 3 earned runs. I guess there's the bright spot of the bullpen. Um, Libby King and Roycroft came in and didn't allow a run, so that's something. I mean, I do want to talk about Roycroft a little bit because like he started off pretty rough, and if you've been watching the pitch lately, he's been super impressive. That four seam sinker combo seems to work really well for him. But this is a guy we didn't really expect much from, so hopefully this continues, especially
Yeah.
since we're starting to get some cracks in the foundation, specifically with Kittredge, who's been struggling a little bit lately in the seventh, but not enough offense. I mean, like you said, the Rockies pitching staff is not only bad, like they're the worst in baseball. So you need to muster up more than 2 runs. I mean, come on.
Yeah. That can't be happening. I don't really have much to talk about this game. I mean, I was expecting us to start off with a nice win to this series and this just set a terrible tone for beginning of a homestand and whatnot.
Well, yeah,
So
and you expect more from Gray too. And not only were the innings an issue this start, but he hasn't gone 6 innings since the beginning of May.
yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. His last start with at least 6 innings was against the Angels and on the 14th of May. So he's gone one, two, three, four starts where he hasn't gone more than 5 2/3 at any of them. So he mentioned it himself in the post game interview, and he owned up for it's like, hey, this is a bad trend. I got to work on this. Got to be better, and we know he can be. Obviously, we saw how dominant he was at the beginning of the season. So, I just hopefully, this is a blip in the long season, and he turns it back around. But yeah, it's a pretty concerning start for sure.
it is. And I don't know how much of that is them not wanting to overexert him because I mean, especially with a hamstring injury, he came back pretty quickly too from that. I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to be gone for longer, so you have to wonder how much of that is them trying to manage any risk. But again, like we need to be winning games and whatnot. But
For
it,
sure. And like
it is what it
after the
is.
3 runs he gave up, though, I mean, I guess that was limited, but as a starter, like not only just like an ace, but like any starter, really, you expect at least 5 innings, right? Even if it's five like not so great innings. because game one of a 4 game series and you're going to your bullpen in the fifth. So it's not definitely not where you want to start.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with a game this close, it's crazy how many times there were that could have changed this game. I mean, you have that, first of all, let's be clear, Cave should have been out in the third and should have never scored to begin with. Then you have a challenge on the double play that gets overturned, so Cave ends up scoring two, even though he shouldn't have been there and the inning should have been over. And then you have Toglia, robbing home runs and everything
Yeah.
falling short on the track, which
Yep.
started
And
a
we got
very
Bush dandied him
frustrating
a little
trend
bit.
this
Hey
series as
man,
well.
bring those walls in. I've been saying it now for a couple of years. We have a team that's like built for power with a pitching staff built for ground balls and a stadium that suppresses fly balls. So like it doesn't make sense. But I don't know. I guess maybe with those renovations Bill DeWitt's asking taxpayer money for, maybe he'll bring the walls in a little bit, hopefully. Um, but yeah, that was a killer too. Like if you watch the game, you'd look at the hit con and be like, man, we didn't do anything. And that's true. But at the same time, man, there's a lot of hard hit balls that were like died right at the edge of the track or smashed right at somebody, and it's just tough to watch. It's like you feel like you get robbed.
True. And then again, like I was saying, and in a one-run game, you have a ump who called a clear strike three a ball
Yep.
that ended up going into a walk, and that's the guy that ends up scoring on the
Game
over.
winning run. Yep.
So, I mean, technically it should have been 2-2 going into the ninth and whatnot, but c'est la vie. It is what it is at the end of
Got to
the
score
day.
more than two. So I mean,
True.
we're more talent. We have a more talented, better roster, at least on paper. Definitely better pitching staff. We shouldn't lose 3-2 to the Rockies. So,
Yeah, like you said, like the lone bright spot really is the
bullpen. Yeah.
pen from the game, ultimately.
And how much better does Libby look now that he's a regular in the bullpen, right? It's almost like someone's been screaming about this for like 2 months now.
It's almost like a million rants eventually
Yeah.
got through. Nah.
I'm sure Bill DeWitt listens to this and John Mazalek. Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah, but
RJ,
if
he's he's
only.
he's onto something there.
All right. I mean, any final thoughts? I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything from game one,
Nope,
right?
it was a stinker. Not
Yeah.
fun to talk about.
So moving on to game two, City Connects were back for their second game, and pretty much a repeat of the first time they came out. We took a nice early lead, gave it up, and then came back late in the late innings to win the game in the City Connects, bringing them to 2-0. Contributions throughout the lineup and whatnot. Burley with a couple hits, Goldie with a couple hits, Herrera too. I mean, and like it wasn't done by the home run either. We scored eight without a single home run as well. 12 hits
Bush.
total. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. It was just because we play in Bush. Like, good luck.
No, but again, like to your point, if it's not going out and you're trying to hit it out, you got to change your strategy at the plate and stop trying to fucking hit it out. And they definitely did that in game two. And look, it paid off. 12 hits, scored 8 runs. That's
Yeah, and
pretty good
go figure. It's
conversion
the
if you ask me.
softest hitting player on the team, Dylan Carlson, with the big game tying hit, and then, I mean, we already had the lead on a Donovan single, but then he added the insurance with a double and made it 8-5. Really kind of put the game away there. Hit it softly where the defenders aren't, I guess. Like I've been pretty hard on Carlson. I think fairly hard on him considering like his prospect status and how
Hmm.
much he's underperformed. But hey, credit to him. This was his game. Like he stole the show. Like you're not going to hit it out, so hit it where they aren't, right? Like even if it's softly hit, he hit one down the line and he hit one was up through the middle to tie the game earlier. 3 RBIs, like he more than doubled his RBI output in one game. So yeah, good for him. Like, and we needed that bounce back. And I want to talk about pitching a little bit again because the pitching was an issue. Lynn also only went four. Um, So we needed 5 more innings from the bullpen. And this is kind of what happens. Like it kind of builds up into like a bad, like especially when your ace doesn't go innings, and then it's tough because 5 more innings from the bullpen. And to the credit again, Leahy, King, Kittredge, Romero, Helsley. We used 5 relievers, gave a 1 earned run between all 5 of them as a Leahy. Um, but yeah, I mean they're the reason we won, right? You can't give Lynn too much credit. 4 innings, 4 earned runs. It's not going to do it. That's a 9 ERA. So
Yeah.
bullpen kept us in it, which allowed us to rally late and Carlson to hit some soft liners to left and center field to win the game.
Yeah, and it's crazy because obviously, for those that were paying attention to the game, we were facing our old friend Gomer here, so you know he's trying to
He's,
make a mark against us too
he's
at the
having
end.
a really good year, honestly, too. So
Yeah,
credit to him, I guess.
JoJo gets the win on the night. Helsley gets its 21st save, continuing that. But yeah, you'd like to see a little more from the starters again, because back-to-back nights where they only covered 8 total. Meanwhile, there's other guys that are throwing 8 full and whatnot.
I mean, story of the series, really. It gets
Yeah,
a little better game 3 and 4. Yeah, and that's what we brought Lennon forward to is like because that was my criticism when we signed him this offseason. Like, but innings, 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 and I was like, well, the innings don't matter if you don't pitch good. So he's been pitching reasonably well to his credit for the year, but in this start we didn't get the innings, so like
yeah,
it stinks because you really put your bullpen in a hole immediately right out the gate. 4 game series, and you've already used what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different relievers in 2 games. It's crazy.
yeah, and as expected, it came back to bite us in game 3 and whatnot. Rockies were able to get a quick early lead, and we could not seem to get anything going on Feltner, which coming in, he had over a 6 ERA, so of course he's blowing stuff past us where we can't get anything done. Finally able to break through in that, wonderful 6th inning thanks to them having errors. I mean, imagine that. You put the ball in play and shit can happen.
Yeah.
What a wonderful
Goldie did
idea.
get a little bailed out. That should have been an ending double play, but I'll take it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you you for even professionals are going to make errors in this game. If you force them into situations where they have to make a like quick decision or a quick release, quick throw, like you saw there, anything can happen. You can grab the ball weird and just grab a seam wrong. I mean, we've done that before. I'm sure you have, where you just grab the ball wrong out of your glove and you throw it normally, but
Yeah, airmail
it's
it.
not a seam and it goes off the wrong way, like a pitcher, as if you're
Oh
throwing a
yeah, for
cut
sure. That's
fastball.
that's much better than striking out, right? So like, I mean, in the end, I guess it didn't matter, but
No, it didn't because our bullpen was taxed. And so, of course, Kit ends up giving up the runs there, isn't fully, you know,
yeah, he just pitched the night before and he pitched again the same day and gave up the Tovar has been killing us. He hit 2 home runs for the Rockies. One right after we just rallied back to tie the game, and they were feeling good for a little bit, and then Kittredge comes in and gives up 3 runs. You're like, oh man,
we had
here we
actually
go.
taken the lead. It wasn't just tied. We had taken the lead in the
Yeah,
sixth.
that's true.
It was 4-3, and then all of a sudden, but again, like you can't fault the bullpen really. Like they'd already covered over 9 innings in 2 games.
Eight and
Like,
two third or 8 and a third. Yep.
and what Kit had thrown 2 innings.
I think he threw only the one
Oh, was
in
it
game
just the
two, but it
one?
was is pitching back-to-back nights too, though. So
Again, man, like it's so much for them to cover. Because I mean, at least Gibby got a quality start and whatnot. So good to see him back in that column and everything. But yeah, I mean, unfortunate.
Yep.
Dropped a
I'll try to highlight another positive, I guess two-ish positives. Um, Roy Croft again. He covered two more innings, and again that sinker four seam just looked really really good. He's pounding it on the inside of batters, and they look super uncomfortable swinging at it. He's got the four seam that rises and the sinker that kind of that breaks down like from the same arm angle. It's pretty gross. And this is a guy, like I said, you didn't really expect much from. So like for Kit to blow it, and then Roycroft to come back in immediately after and hold them to nothing the last two innings of the game to at least give us a chance. It was nice to see, because like that's the guy that's supposed to be in like cleanup duty or like games that are not close. He's not supposed to be one of those guys that are high leverage relievers. But being that we use all our high leverage already in the series, he kind of was forced in that situation. And yeah, Carpenter hit a home run. It's first at Busch since 2019, so that was cool. It made it a one-run game. He ended up being the guy that popped out to end the game when we lost two, but it's cool. He hit a home run. That's it. We lost 6-5.
oh, so unfortunate, man. So
Yep.
unfortunate.
And now you're only hoping to salvage a split with the worst team in the NL.
Yeah. Ah, is what it is. So yeah. And who did we have on the mound too?
Lante bump day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like you're
Never know
not
what
going
you're
on
gonna
the
get with him,
greatest.
right?
You're either getting that great start from his first one or his not so great start from the second one. And it's like we need the great start. And you know what? We got that from him. Kudos to him, man. Came in, delivered what we needed from him. I mean, I would have loved for him to go longer in the game because he was pulled before 70 pitches and whatnot. So it's a bit concerning that Ollie just, yanked him there and whatnot, but
Yeah,
gave
we had a
us
well-rested bullpen.
gave us 5 innings, 3 hits, only gave up 1 walk, 6 Ks, so really good job. Bullpen came in, did the rest of the, thing. Burley had a home run in this, and yeah, I mean, Nato had a couple of hits too, so to see his bat going a bit, you know, at least it finished on a positive note is all I could say.
Yeah, I mean, 5 innings, no runs. You'll take that from your number five every day, right? Like he's not the guy that's supposed to be the bulldog getting you a bunch of innings, so he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Um, you mentioned the bullpen. Libertor Fernandez King covered four more innings. They gave one run, whatever. Um, but yeah, Burleson. That's something I wanted to talk about a little bit. So I'm going to kind of break away from the series as a whole, and talk about Burleson just kind of on the season and like where how he's definitely outperformed expectations, I guess, for most Cards fans. I was banging the Burley drum last year. It's like, hey man, he hits the ball hard. He's just very unfortunate. He's going to break out, and that's exactly what he's done. Like right now, Alec Burleson, if you look at NL outfielder ranks, he's fourth in the National League in four. He's eighth in home runs at nine. He's fourth. Um, yeah, he's 26 out of 27th in K percentage. So he's got the second lowest K percentage among all qualified outfielders. Ninth in WRC plus as an outfielder. Um, I mean, all the dude does is hit, right? Like he's hitting 273s. He's fourth in the NL in batting average among qualified outfielders. Sixth in wins created or win probability added among outfielders. Ninth in WRC plus. Yeah, guy's been the stud for us. Like, and he didn't even really start the year as like expected to be an everyday player, and he's forced his hand into like being that, and not only being that, like being arguably our second best hitter on the team right now behind Mason Wynn. So,
Yeah.
um, it's pretty cool to see. Like, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I'm going to do it because I said Burley's going to be good, and he is. So, uh, imagine if you didn't play at Bush, right? Like, he had a couple of those like long outs too. Where you're like, holy cow, how's that not a home run? But, um, yeah, like right now, Bush Stadium is. I don't know about lefties, but for right-handers, it's the hardest stadium in baseball to hit a home run in. So, like, I imagine it's pretty similarly tough on left-handers because our stadium's symmetrical. So it's not one of those weird shaped ones where it's different down the lines. It's the same. So I don't know. I've been super impressed by him. So I wanted to talk a little positive before we get into some more of the negative stuff about this series. But is there any like notes or anything you want to talk about?
Um, I mean, it's just frustrating, man, because we come into this series knowing that this is one where we have a team that isn't hot coming into our home, and we played down to them. Again, we played down to our competition, just like we play up to competition, but that doesn't bode well for the rest of the season because you're going to end up playing, just as many bad teams as you are good teams, pretty much. And we're in the middle of a race right now, so need people to step up and deliver. We can't be having our ace go four, followed by, Lynn going four and whatnot.
Do you want the fun stats that are pretty depressing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well,
Deliver.
I'll start with the starters, which is more depressing than the bullpen. The bullpen is actually good for the series, so good on them. Starters, though, covered only 19 and two-thirds out of 36 possible, 10 earned runs, 4.5 ERA. Bullpen, on the other hand, 16 and a third inning, so they pitched almost as many innings as the starters, 5 earned runs, three of them were from Kit in that one inning against Colorado where he blew it. Otherwise, they would only had two on the series, but still a 2.75 ERA, covering almost 17 innings in a four-game series. So pretty good. Now let's talk about Colorado pitching. So you guys really understand how much we underperformed this series. Going into the series on the season, the Colorado pitching staff as a whole, so this is the starters and the bullpen, they accounted for only 1.64 as an entire staff, dead last in baseball. They had a 5.22 ERA, dead last in baseball. Only 6.6 strikeouts per nine, dead last in baseball. So, of course, we struck out 31 times, almost nine per nine as for us. We only scored 16 earned runs in the series. So, like I mentioned, 5.22 ERA. They had a four against us. Um, we as a team we had a 90 WRC plus, so below league average as a team against the worst staff in baseball. We slugged 333. We hit under 260. Our isolated power is 0.74. Uh, it's bad. It's not good at all.
No.
It stinks. Yeah, that was it. Sorry.
Oh,
Had to
I
do it.
mean, we're lucky to have come away with a split this series. It could have been a lot worse, ultimately. And we're lucky the rest of the NL has been shitting the bed because we still find ourselves in a four-way tie for that last wild card spot, only a half game back of the Padres for that second wild card spot. So, like, we are still in it, but we need to get our shit together. I mean, we're playing better baseball than we did a month ago, barely at times, but like we now have a stretch of 7 games against the Pirates and the Cubs, and we can't, just split those because that lets them stick in their game and whatnot. I mean,
Well, yeah, we're battling the Pirates right now for that wild card. So like we got to win these games, right?
we're
And
we're
not only
battling
that,
the
we're coming off two
Pirates, the
series losses.
Reds, we're battling everybody in the Central not named the Brewers for that wild card right now,
Yep.
ultimately.
And then you're looking at the NL West with like the D-backs that are in it and the Giants that are in it and the East. The Braves are a decent chunk ahead of us, but yeah, it stinks. Like I said, we're coming off two straight series losses. One of them was against the Phillies, where we did scratch out one, and we were like, that's okay, because we were missing Lars Nootbaar and we were missing Wilson Contreras. Didn't expect to win, but like we played them well. And
Mhm.
like you mentioned earlier, we really played to the competition, it seems like, because this is the same. We sweep the Orioles, but then we lose series to the White Sox and split with the Rockies. I know it's baseball and it's weird, but like good teams that doesn't happen to regularly. And it seems like it's always the case with us. We're always playing the competition. We can't like ever go on a run of just beating bad teams. We're always playing to their level.
Yeah.
Um, and that needs to be corrected. Unless we're just an average team, and like we just need to come to grips with the reality that we're just an average team. With the rest of the, I think only 8 teams in baseball are above 500 right now. So like It's a lot of that around the league too. So it's not just us, I guess. So
Yeah, there's only four teams in the NL right now that are above 500
it's
at the
crazy.
end of the day. So, I mean, yeah, the AL is a different story, but in the NL, it's a wild west right now. So, we have to create separation to make it easier on ourselves down the road. Otherwise,
What we should have been doing against the Rockies. But
we
we
should
got
have been, but we didn't, and we can't go back in time. So it is what it is ultimately. And we find ourselves now going into, like I said, those three games. Oh, sorry, it's only 6 games, not seven. I don't know why I said seven. Those 3 games now that we have against the Pirates, at home still, starting um, Tuesday and whatnot. Obviously, that is a later night game.
big time
So,
pitching matchup. You got the Paul Skeens versus the Lizard King to start the series. So-
I
Hey man, we can't hit the bad pitchers, so maybe we'll hit the good ones. So,
mean, we do sometimes,
yeah,
so we'll
it
see
doesn't
how
make
it
any
goes.
sense. I saw him blow 100 past Otani though, and I'm like, man, he's gonna like, oh, Goldie has a tough time keeping up with fastballs as it is right now. I can imagine him trying to hit 100, 101. But hey, man, prove me wrong, right? Like, gotta hope for the best.
Well, that'll do it for the series recap of things. Moving over to the community mailbag, we did have a couple questions that had been asked for us, and some people wanting follow-ups on those questions as well. So give us a second here. One of the questions we want to cover is from Parker. He was wondering if we think that Sagase could pivot to the outfield, or is it too late for him to go ahead and make that change? You want to start off with this?
Quick, easy answer. No, he's not going to be an outfielder. That's it's not going to happen. Besides the fact that he's played his whole career on the middle infield, second baseman and third baseman by trade. Uh, Look at the Cards outfield currently. Right now, we have Lars Nootbaar and Alec Burleson and Brendan Donovan out there, and that's not even counting for Jordan Walker or Victor Scott in the future, or some of the guys that are super highly touted that we're excited about in the future, who may be struggling also. But you got to look at people like Juan Ben Cho or Joshua Baez or Chase Davis. So, like, where does JC fall in line there among outfielders when you already have that many? Um, it doesn't make sense. And I know we have a lot of second basemen also, and that's a different discussion. But like it just does not make sense to have him jump into a new position that's just as crowded, if not more, when he's already doing decent enough at the position he plays. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like you said, quick, easy, no, for all the
I still
same
gave the
reasons.
description, but like it's not gonna happen. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, it's a wonderful idea, and the Cardinals do like to use utility players like that. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there could always be a rare situations where they do, but again, he doesn't profile as one of those guys like an Edmund or, like a Donnie that can move around multiple. He's more of a guy that, if anything, they might try to move him over to like a shortstop position, if anything, but he's
Not
probably
with the
just
win around though. Yeah, like it's second base,
exactly.
best shot, I guess. Second, third base,
Yeah.
especially with Arenado aging, or utility. Just be utility infielder like in the future too. That works. We seem to love those guys. So uh,
Yep. So moving on to Elijah's question here. He was wondering if, obviously, this was a week ago when news of Colton hitting the, DFA came out. So he was wondering if we thought the Cardinals would release Crawford or even just sign Wong and remove somebody else. Now, I don't see Crawford going anywhere at this time until maybe at the deadline, depending on what sort of package we're able to get together, and whatnot. But um, I wasn't expecting a Wong reunion either, to be honest. We're plenty good at second base right now. But, same reason we just answered that question about Sagase. We have so many second basemen ultimately. We don't need another guy there. That's why we let him go originally rather than taking that option. It's because we knew we had so many internal options ultimately.
Yeah, and Crawford, he's played more than I would have liked him to play, but it still isn't that much. I mean, he's there only to be like a mentor type to Mason Wynn, who's really just like taken off this year. And I know Colton Wong's a second baseman, but you're not gonna sign Wong to sit behind Gorman and then sit behind Donovan. And people were still talking about Thomas JC and Tommy Edmonds on his way back eventually too. It just doesn't make sense. Wong's not a good hitter. He's not a good defender anymore either. It's sad, and I know we really loved him while he was here, and I really liked Wong a lot, but it doesn't make sense. It'd just be another roster spot given an old veteran who wouldn't play.
Yeah,
Doesn't really add any value. Doesn't make sense.
agreed. Last but not least, we have Jenny's question, a little more in depth, talking about the experiment, to put Win at leadoff on occasion instead of his usual eight spot. And she was just wondering if we feel that's a bit too much pressure on the rookie. Um, Kind of like what you've been talking about with Libby, giving him that defined role versus moving him back and forth. You know, ultimately, should he be getting that flexibility, or is this make sense with them moving him around on the lineup, trying to get him more opportunities when it makes sense with matchups and whatnot?
See, that's kind of a tough question. Well, it's not tough. I have all the data here, and it's saying he shouldn't bat leadoff. But the thing is, like, you've seen Mason Win just excel at almost everything he's done this year. And you combine that with the fact that, like, so far in the season, Brendan Donovan has underperformed vastly. This is a guy that's usually every year he's been in the majors has been over 350 on base, and he's nowhere near that right now. So that in a perfect world, Brendan Donovan would be your leadoff, and you wouldn't have to worry about switching other guys in there, matchup or not, just because he takes such a good professional at bat. But right now, I'll go through the stats. As a leadoff hitter, 11 games, Mason Wynn, that is, he's hitting 250, or his slash line is 250, 275, 375, 650 OPS, 84 WRC plus, walks less than 4% of the time, strikes out nearly 28% of the time. And that's a small sample. Obviously, 11 games isn't many. But when you compare that to like when he was batting eighth, when he had a slash line of 405, 467, 608 for a 1074 OPS and a 206 WRC plus, you're like, man, like he was really thriving in eighth. Why would you move him? And like I mentioned at the beginning of this question, I guess it's because he's succeeded like everything he's done so far this year. And he's got the right amount of hitting ability and the right amount of speed that you can profile him as a leadoff hitter. Uh, I think it's just going to take some patience with him up there. I mean, 11 games is a really small sample size. Obviously, he crushed hitting eighth. And if you want to extend it out like even like seventh, eighth, ninth, that's where the majority of us, he's got 42 games in all three spots together. Even then, he had a 348 batting average, 405 on base, almost 900 OPS, about 160 WRC plus. So he really thrived at the bottom of the order where there was no pressure on him. But if you're going to, if this is going to be a franchise type player, and like we already talked about, he's one of the best line drive hitters in the game, and he was taking walks. Before he moved up, he was taking walks. Like his on base was over 400. Um, so we know he can do it. It just getting him used to it and adjusted to it may take some time. And ultimately, if like we go like a long stretch and he can never figure it out in leadoff, you know he can do it in the back end of the order. So it's this is a franchise player. You want him to be up near the top, and especially with his base stealing ability, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the thing people need to understand is by the time you reach the pros, pitchers are a lot more methodical with how they approach the lineup. The guys that are at the top of the lineup are getting a lot more hidden stuff. They're getting a lot more, questionable, hey, what am I going to be seeing? Whereas once you get to seven, eight, nine as a pitcher, you're just trying to get through those guys. It's like, hey, pitch them low, let them hit it, maybe I'll get a strikeout, but like you're not trying to have a 10 pitch at bat with the seventh batter. You're trying to do that with number one, so you can strike him out, but you're going to be seeing a lot different pitches at eight. And so, yeah, it's all about how you're approaching it. And if you can understand that dance that you're doing with the pitchers, some people it clicks a lot easier with them and they're able to be a leadoff hitter a lot better. Other guys just thrive better in other roles where they're seeing more defined pitches and they know kind of like, okay, they're going to try to mess me up, but, I can expect to get a couple fastballs because they're not going to want to see the guy behind me or walk me and whatnot, like Win is. And he just
Yeah,
has
and it
to
makes
get it
sense
where they
for
get
Wynn
it.
to succeed in the bottom half of the order too, because he is such a good low ball hitter. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I said, this is a franchise type player, so you're gonna have to give him some time to adjust to lead off. And I know it hasn't been nearly as successful based on the numbers alone, but we know he's got the tools to succeed. He's got the ability to learn. Obviously, he went from 2023 where he's just awful, and people are like, he's not ready. Now he's like our best player, right? So just give it a little bit of time. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, everybody, that will just about do it for this episode of Birds on the Blue Note. Thanks for joining us for this recap of the Rocky series, as well as the bonus mailbag. Thank you to those that submitted your questions. We hope you enjoyed getting the spotlight on there. Let us know any thoughts you guys have about this past series, stuff that is upcoming with this NL Central series. Hopefully, you're excited about that as well. And just a couple quick reminders. We currently have the NHL draft mock video up for the first round for those Blues fans and other hockey fans. Feel free to check that out on the channel. We also have a recent prospect update, looking out at the farm for the Cardinal system, giving you guys some updates on where guys are at, including video highlights for you YouTubers. And yeah, we'll be raffling off that mystery bag later this week. So make sure if you are one of our subscribers that you have gone ahead, and if you aren't, public subscription that you comment on one of those videos so we can make sure to include you in that. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us and hope you have a great rest of your night. We'll see you later. Take care.